Good morning. So, I want to talk to you about something that I experienced the other night. It was a big light bulb moment, to say the least. I was hanging out with somebody, and it's still undetermined as to whether or not there's a connection there, but we're just hanging out as friends. And you guys know I went through a breakup a couple months ago. So, I could tell that night that I was guarded. We were having dinner, and you could tell when you're guarded. And in that moment, I had this huge epiphany that whenever you're guarded or you play coy or you're shy or you're reserved, it could also be whenever you judge somebody. It doesn't always have to be a date. It could be when you judge somebody or you judge yourself and then you project that onto the other person. You're experiencing a completely different reality than if you were open and vulnerable, or in my case, more flirtatious. I wasn't being super flirtatious, but I realized in that moment, wow, there are two completely separate aspects of who I am. Think of an aspect as a version of you that are going on right now. And I'm choosing to be guarded. And as a product of that, I'm attracting, or you could say I'm creating an experience that is entirely different than if I was open, vulnerable, expressive, funny, flirtatious, and so on and so on. So that got me thinking. I was like, on the spot, like I actually told the person, oh my God, I'm having a light bulb moment. In that moment, I realized that those two versions of who I am were residing within two completely different realities or experiences based on a choice. And they're not interacting properly. These two versions of myself are almost scared of each other. They haven't always been scared of each other, but I've noticed post-breakup that I'm more guarded. So those two aspects have not been interacting properly. Think about that. They're so separate that they're experiencing a different reality altogether. One is having one experience. I know I'm going deep with you guys. The other one is having another experience. One of them is having a physical experience, and then the other experience is happening based on a choice you didn't make. Does that make sense? But as we know, these timelines run parallel. When you make one choice, you're in that physical experience, and the choice that you didn't make still goes on and has its own experience. So anyways, my point is, I thought to myself, wow, they feel so far from each other. They're like afraid of each other. Similarly to how when you don't want to bump into a neighbor or you don't want to say hi to somebody, it's like you're afraid of that reality. There's something in you that is still unsettled or that's still uncomfortable, and you're afraid to be all of you. And I get it, because listen, here's the thing. There can be so many different factors involved. What if the person you're on a date with isn't for you? What if they are for you? If they're not for you, then yeah, of course you would feel somewhat guarded because it's not necessarily clicking in that space. It's not clicking in that affectionate, intimate, expressive state. It's more amicable. So there are so many different factors. Same goes for bumping into your neighbors. Some of them might talk your ears off all the time, and you're like, they don't have boundaries. So yeah, of course you're going to be guarded at times. So that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is start becoming aware of the you that you're choosing. Remember, we're all characters in a video game, and everyone's wearing their different cloaks and their different garments and their different superpowers. And you always have a choice as to which one you're going to choose. Are you going to be open and receptive and communicative, or are you going to play shy or play coy or be reserved, which at that point you'll attract a completely different reality. So then I thought, well, what's the solution here? There is no solution. The most you can do is express what you're feeling in that moment, because now you're at least being open about what's going on with you in that moment. And that's a step in the right direction. But basically what I'm trying to say is that I realized in that moment that those two different aspects of who I am They were sort of like my spirit guides, even though they were me. Sorry. Even though they were me, they were kind of like my spirit guides. They were showing me that I have a blind spot. They were showing me that these two aspects weren't quite plugging into each other correctly. Think of a USB, like they weren't going into each other. They weren't merging, they weren't fusing. And then all of a sudden I realized they've been my spirit guides because they've been wanting me to have this epiphany. But now I'm going to be their spirit guide because I'm going to bring them together. I'm the one that has to release the fear and then promote some sort of a confluence or a convergence of these two aspects. So I thought that was really interesting. So what I want to say to you today is pay attention to your body language when you're with people. Pay attention to the way that you're showing up. If you're guarded, try to drop your guard. Okay? Don't be afraid to be all of you. Don't be afraid to be so open that you allow the truest truth to reveal itself. Because by opening up to someone, you might realize within 3 minutes, wow, this person's really attentive. They really care about me. Because why? Because when you do that, you're inviting another reality in. Do you understand how this works? So just by opening up a little bit, you're now making yourself available in another dimension or in another reality. And now you're going to see a different version of the person standing in front of you because you're evoking that version of them. This is how trippy this reality is going to get. You know, we've talked about when you're in a certain frequency, that's the reality that you're in because you're broadcasting a signal and then it externalizes itself as that reality that you're experiencing. But it's going to be more in your face than ever. Does that make sense? Like in the past, these were like cute concepts. Like we kind of knew they were true, but now you're going to start to realize more and more that your reality is in real time mirroring your state of being in real time. And I think it always has. It's just that we weren't aware of it. We thought, oh, okay, if I'm guarded and it's supposed to work out with this person, then it will. It doesn't quite work like that though. You have to be the one to take off your rose-tinted glasses. You have to be the one who opens up your heart. You have to be the one that leans in. Okay? Because if you remain guarded or if you remain critical of family members or whatever, any thought you have that you're holding on to, right? Because you're trying to protect yourself. I know, I hope I'm not going too deep, but any thought that you're like holding on to is an image you're going to project onto others. So you have to be willing to change that thought, to pivot your focus so that you can then introduce yourself to another experience. But these experiences are all running simultaneously. It's just that you're physically in the one that you've chosen. And sometimes you don't even know you're choosing it. It's an unconscious choice. So many people can have walls up and they're unconsciously putting those walls up. And then they wonder, why am I still single? It's because you don't even realize that you're always tensed up. Like you never open up. Like you're so afraid of being hurt that you don't open up. You have all these protective walls. So my point is, we're the ones who have to take off the rose-tinted glasses by connecting to a different aspect that's more open. And as soon as you kind of toggle into that other browser, then all of a sudden the entire room changes. In a blink of an eye, the entire room changes based on the frequency that you've just toggled into. This is how amazing and magical things are about to get for us. You know, and the more aligned you are, the more aware you become, the more you'll see that these realities, they're like a dog. The second you have a treat, it's like, give me a treat. These realities, the second that you hold up a different image or you hold up a different attitude, the entire reality just shifts on the spot. It's really trippy. So my message to you today is don't be afraid to be open, because when you're open, you allow the truth to come out. That's why I always tell people, don't control your husband, don't control your wife. Just be, accept them as they are. The truth will reveal itself faster if you're open, because now you're letting the universe work through you to reveal those truths. I love you, my friends.